Into the SorareAndrews podcast brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined once again, as usual, by Andy Black, who you can find as Black on Sorare. Andy, I had like a very specific topic I wanted to talk about today that was based on something that I heard in another podcast that was really just like another mention of things a lot of other people have said. And then all of a sudden, ETH dropped quite a bit, and now everyone thinks we're going to talk about that because that's about money, and apparently we're talking about money.
We've never stayed on topic anyway, so what does it matter?
Well, if the non-topic ends up being our topic, are we actually not on topic?
Great question.
I don't know either. Let me ask you a straight up question to start. How often do you think about fiat prices of cards, whether you're buying or selling?
Not nearly enough. And I think that let me walk this back for a second.
We're already walking back.
My opinion is that there is no real peg between card value and ETH or card value and fiat. It's some mysterious place in between. And that might be because of corrections like the other day when we lost 30% of ETH value or whatever. There's cards posted and it slowly takes a while to correct the price of cards that are listed. Like cards are going to sell for maybe too cheap fiat wise for a short term.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the case or not. That's a theory. But I do think that there's a weird peg in between the two. I do look at fiat values, but really, I don't look at a card and I'm like, oh yeah, that card's worth $1,500, or that card's worth $50, or that card's worth $5. I don't look at it that way, but I'll go look at the ETH chart for that player, and I'll look like where they're at on the graph and where my buy would be on the Sorare data graph. And then I'll flip it over to fiat and I'll look at the same graph and I'll compare the value that I'm purchasing the card at now with where it would be on that graph. Am I buying it like high up on the chart for fiat or low on the chart? And then I'll do the same with ETH. And I don't know if that data like affects my decision, and I don't know if it should, or if I'm like just looking at this and I'm being stupid. But that's what I look at. And I think it helps me justify like, ooh, I'm getting a good fiat deal, or ooh, I'm getting a good ETH deal on this.
But like in practice, if you look at those two things and you're like, all right, I'm paying for, I'm not the highest dot on ETH, but I'm like way the highest on fiat. Does that make you not want to buy the card for the price that you were going to buy in ETH?
Yeah, anytime I'm way high on something, either way, like the highest ETH buyer or the highest fiat buyer, I'm going to question what I'm doing.
Okay.
I might still do it.
I was going to say, you'll do it anyway. But.
Yeah, I might. I might not, and probably more than likely not going to do it because that's probably a signal that I'm doing something wrong.
Right. Okay. Before I continue that, thank you to everybody who has joined us live here. Philly Dilly 000 was the first one in. Quinny got in as well. Marty1. I don't know how I pronounce that. Marty1, probably. NG's here. Baston had to go. My gosh, at least he checked in on the chat. If you guys also, since Mike is here and he's usually the one, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button on the video, that's appreciated. Surface, nice to see you. Looking for food. Andy and I were talking about how you were going to be shaving during this show. I don't really want to know any more than that, but we'll do our best to speak up. Roaring Fuji, Fujin. Lauren Zarky, what's up? Harry Trades, always nice to see you as well. The thing I wanted to talk about with that.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Zarky's comment. They need to implement are you sure you want to be the highest purchase?
That's a great point. No, but like and then Trip and B. All right, I feel better now. Trip and B is here. So are you more likely to hesitate about being the highest ETH purchase ever or the highest fiat purchase ever?
I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to answer that. I just think that anytime that you're like highest on either of those charts, or like, then you may want to like double check
Yeah,
what you're doing.
that's fair. That's fair.
But like to me, I don't think it matters if one versus the other.
Right. Okay. That's fair.
I just don't want to be the highest.
Right. That's when you start pumping it. So the topic I wanted to actually discuss, and because I don't really want to get into the whole ETH versus fiat thing yet, but the actual topic that I was going to bring up today was the number of moves that, or like suggestions that people have for Sorare that will help increase card values. And I think a lot of people view Sorare as a company that is responsible for making sure that our cards always have value, and that everything they do should be about making our cards more valuable forever. And while I think that tanking card values obviously hurts Sorare, because it's like, if we don't think these cards are going to be worth anything and the game is not fun, then we're not going to buy anymore. So they obviously have an incentive to make the cards, to make us want to buy cards. I feel like there's this underlying belief that Sorare is responsible for ensuring that the cards always have value. And I think we forget that they shouldn't, that's not their role. Like, we kind of determine what the card values are, at least.
Right.
And so the way it came up is about how Saint Etienne renewed their license immediately after getting relegated. And I think it was on Nellis's podcast, So Far So Rare, with Mark Alele. And they were like, are we, in the press release, like Nicolo said something like, giving Saint Etienne fan supporters like the opportunity to use their cards, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, they can't use their cards. They're in Ligue 2 now.
They can use them in training.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Right. Where we always want, where we buy cards so we can play them in training.
Or you could buy the like a goalkeeper and then run 4 field players with,
right.
Yeah. With an
or
expensive
you buy all the Monza cards and now you have Champion Europe cards. Right. But there was this call like, oh, are they going to offer contests that have, is there going to be now like second division utility? And they were like, well, that would obviously help the value of those cards. And it's like, I don't think Sorare should care that like we need to get like utility out of second division cards after teams get relegated.
Well, maybe they should care, because then they could sell all of those cards.
They could sell more
money. Yeah.
The way that I just took the whole conversation was like, we can't let those cards become worthless. And
that's part of the ebbs and flows of the game, I feel like.
Right.
It happened to Schalke. And didn't somebody else get relegated too?
On the platform? I'm sure there were some Jupiler teams.
Right. No, I was thinking like from Bundesliga, but maybe I'm wrong. At any rate, no, I think it was just a guy that I had that I'm thinking of, and he played on some weird team over there. At any rate, I think that they do have some responsibilities, but I don't think that they're really that would be cool surface, the relegated
weekly.
I do think that they have some responsibilities around values of cards, but I don't think that it has anything to do with like whether a team's relegated or not. I think it has more to do with like not making drastic changes to the scoring matrix over short periods of time and allowing card values to suddenly change.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. I just felt like the more opinions I saw of like, not even game suggestions, but it does fall into that category. And they were like, oh, well, if they made this tweak, my cards would be more expensive, more valuable. So they should definitely make this tweak, because Sorare should make sure that our cards are worth more. So that when the new people come in, they'll want to buy our cards. And it's like, I'm not sure that's Sorare's role in any of this. Like, I think it also kind of reminds me when they get accused of these cash grabs when they're like, "Oh, now you're going to sell the messy unique," and it's like, well, it's a
I have
business.
I have no problem, no issue with the way that they sell cards. I know that uh, like selling two of the same unique in a short period of time can be a little bit because it's a one of one, and you
Yeah,
might buy it at the end of last season, and then they release it again at the start of the season. That might be a little annoying. Maybe they can put a cooldown in there or something, but that's like such a whale problem and such a whale atmosphere thing. Um, I have no issue with them looking at a player's L5 and being like, "This is the best time for us to sell this card." Like, totally makes sense. If it were my business, I'd do the exact same thing.
yeah. It was the when Julian Alvarez had his 6 goals, and then his unique came up, and everyone's like, "Oh, of course they're going to do it now." And it's like, yeah, that this is how businesses work. Like we forget that like Sorare is a business. They raised all this money because they're like a profitable business, and like the point of most businesses is to make money. And so the unique thing is kind of weird because I think they really screwed up last year in
Yeah.
terms of when they sold uniques. Like for some reason, the unique market died. And all of a sudden, we got to the end of the season and they were like, boy, we have all these uniques. We should sell them. And then they did. And everyone's like, it was really bad that you guys sold them at the end of the season because like utility was low for the season. You shouldn't do that. And then Sorare took that advice and implemented it by releasing another unique, like Pablo Ruiz is the one that pops into my mind only because
Yeah.
Sean bought the old one and then the new one came out. There was
Yeah. It
another
was
one.
like within like 6 weeks or something. Like, it was a very short time for him. I remember.
Yeah. What was the other one?
I think Surface bought it and then resold it, right?
Well, that too, but there was another unique that went like they had 2 of them within 3 months, and everybody got really pissed about that. And I was like, wait, we just saw this with Pablo Ruiz, and nobody was all that pissed, but it was definitely because he plays in Major League Soccer. But anyway, but they were like, they took the advice of like, you guys shouldn't wait so long to do these good uniques, and so they were like, okay, here's Pablo Ruiz, and it's like, no, 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 that was too soon, and I get that, and I have no sympathy for Sean, but I sympathize for the situation at least.
I want to discuss two things that came up in chat. So, looking for food makes a good point. Relegation is simply a risk that comes with an investment. Yeah, you buy a player that's on a team that's low on the table. That is your risk that you got to deal with. And if they keep playing poorly, you can sell it and you can get out of that risk. Like, that's totally a known thing. We know about that.
Yeah,
Triple B says something that I
agree.
need more clarity on. He says, I don't think Sorare has a responsibility to proactively do things to maintain card value, but they do have some responsibility to not actively crash them. Is there something that they're doing to actively crash the value of certain cards?
I think he's just saying they
Shouldn't do
have a
that.
responsibility not to do that
Okay.
because that would be really bad.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like the Legends thing, like they released all those Legends and then didn't have gameplay for them for a long time was uh, a poor play.
That was
But
really bad, I think.
yeah, that was, you know, there are a lot of things that like I'll defend them on, such as like releasing uniques when they're playing well or whatever. I won't defend the way that Legends were rolled out. That was very poor.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that, what, if you asked any of their team, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, we effed up on that. That sucked." Maybe,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
would
know.
hope so. I would hope that they recognize it. Fantasy Teller was saying the Matthias Savio uniques were a month apart. That still wasn't the one. Why am I blanking on?
MLS referral rewards have crashed the price a lot of the lower tier MLS Unlimiteds due to huge influx. Yeah, I hate the referral program too.
Is
I'll just
that
leave it.
like?
I'll leave it at that. I don't know that it's crashing the market or affecting prices at all, but I think the referral program has to go.
Lower tier MLS limited market is not one I pay attention to be honest. So I can't I can't really give an opinion on that.
Yeah,
I would assume that those cards aren't very valuable anyway. Is it all tier twos? Is that what I remember? Tier two MLS cards?
something like that. Yeah.
Ugh. that group is probably so much bigger than we think, and we look at it and be like, who?
I think the people abusing it is probably a lot bigger than we think too.
Why would you abuse a system to get tier 2 MLS limited cards?
So that you can end up getting a unique.
Oh, that one. Okay. Yeah.
I think honestly, if they just remove that, if they remove the unique, I think that you'd be in such a better place where there'd be less complaints, at least around it. There'd still be people that probably abuse it, and they would think that they can, squeeze out a profit on that free tier 2 limited card. And I'm sure that they probably might be able to make a few bucks, but the fact that they can get a unique out of it right now is just awful.
Yeah. I got one that way, so I'll at least preface that by saying that. But yeah. So
but you weren't referral scamming. You were, legitimately bringing people onto the platform.
Yeah.
And not saying that there would be a way to differentiate the two, but
yeah, that's fair. Roran Fujin said you can check Jan Grey Goose as an example about the huge influx of or the decrease in cards.
Him getting benched. Chart. Him getting benched is what caused.
I was going to say, if you look at his scores, this is why his price is tanked, especially with limiteds, because we know how score-based limited card prices can be. He was really, really good, and then basically lost his job.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Sorry, I was trying to check up on the chat here. Oh, he was saying check the trades. Just one person. Oh, wait, there's one person getting all of them. That's a funny. It's a bunch of auctions. My gosh, look. Oh, referral. Oh, that's silly. So they just paid out a ton of Grey Goose. Oh my god.
Huh. Yeah. Why would they do that?
Why would they do that? It's like they only gave away Jan Grey Goose cards. Yeah, I stand corrected. Although that's I don't know what to make of that. That's an absurd number of single player referrals. I think that is a mistake. I feel like somebody should tell Sorare that that's a mistake. It's a lot of so that's people who have won 5 rewards too. And excuse me, won 5 auctions.
I guess.
And they were rewarded with a Jan Grey Goose.
People or person.
Right. Yeah, that's really bad. I was so close to buying a Jan Grey Goose super rare 2 months ago, and my gosh, did I avoid disaster by not having enough ETH to do that. Yeah, Joshua makes an interesting point. The fact they increased it from 5,000 to 10,000 after seeing how many people botting the system is questionable.
Agreed.
In fairness, it doesn't have to be a bot. There can be very driven human beings who are scamming them.
Yeah. In short, it doesn't matter whether it's a bot or a person. The fact that they don't have a better system in place to protect against it. I saw a tweet somebody was shared. It was in short, it might as well have been Scammer 1, Scammer 2, Scammer 3, Scammer 4. That was the names of their accounts, and they just labeled them all the way up to 50 or something. And they would do their 5 auction wins and then trade the cards back to one single account. And it's okay, this is incredibly obvious. And if you have systems in place that are designed to see this and protect against this, and it's getting through, then everything's getting through.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I want to believe that they are putting in enough checks that before the unique is paid out. I remember when I got mine, and mine was a long time ago and also required people to buy 5 rares. It was before limiteds. But they were I got a notice that I had reached the 30 referrals and that it was under review before I got my unique. Mm-hmm. I would hope that with a bigger with a bigger
that they do like individual checks, special checks on those.
yeah, like with
Would
more
hope so.
people with more people working there, you would think that they should have enough people to make sure they're not giving away uniques. I mean, obviously they don't care about these tier 2 MLS limiteds. They'll just let anybody have them, but
You say, and that's a problem, I guess, when you said that they don't care about these tier 2
mm-hmm.
MLS limiteds, because that is right to Trip and B's like point. Like you have to, you can't do things to, you know, hurt their value. Yeah,
So
and
these are all just
dumping
awful.
10,000 of them or whatever on the market is not great,
Yeah.
especially when it's done in a way that's not that's abusive.
Right.
If these were going to people that were holding them, using them, and wanting to use them, and not just like dumping them right back on the market, then great. But I don't think that's probably the case.
Right. Like on the screen here, like these are all Steve Birnbaum transactions yesterday.
Hmm.
Huh. Does he even play? Oh, I guess he does. Oh, he's
Looks like
hot. No wonder.
he's got a hot L5
No
there.
wonder. See, everyone, just calm down. It's because he's playing well.
Did
Nothing
they
to
have a good
see
matchup
here.
this weekend? Did they play Toronto? I think, is that right?
Yeah, that's why everybody Chicago at Chicago.
Chicago.
No wonder. See, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong here. My goodness, that is terrible. Anyway, so this is actually a topic that we were not going to discuss. So it only took us about 15 minutes to get off our 2 topics today. So Andy, do you think everyone who bought those Steve Birnbaum cards are thinking in ETH? No.
Pull up the chart. Look at the last buys for ETH and Fiat. Let's compare
I
them.
don't think anybody's buying. I think they're just giving. All right, let me do 1 week here. This chart is so stupid, my gosh. Yeah, it's basically the same. Like the area is the same. It's very dumb. I'll say that and we've kind of mentioned this a number of times and then promptly ignored it for ourselves. But we have said that we think that people who deal, almost exclusively in limiteds tend to think in fiat, and people who are in rares and super rares and uniques think in ETH. And I think part of it is that a lot of the people who deal in uniques and super rares, at least, not everyone, but a lot, have been here a while. Like they've been here long enough where like ETH mattered more. And so like they're in this position of wanting ETH like that.
Or just incredibly fearful of taking ETH losses on those types of cards.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. I think I've just seen so many people talk in like such extremes that they're like, everyone thinks in fiat now. And it's like, no, they don't. And they're like, nobody would ever sell a card without checking the fiat value. It's like, yep, there are plenty who do. And
well, I sell cards all the time without checking the fiat value. I'll just look at the ETH floor and then I'll undercut it. It's more buy, like on the buy side. When I'm buying a card, I might check both.
Yeah, what gets me, there was one comment today on Twitter that, in response to something I said about it, and they were like, people who think in ETH only think in ETH when it benefits them, and which like says something about the way that they feel about ETH. And I was like, I don't even know what this means.
But I think there are people that do that. Like they only think in terms of the currency that like benefits them in that given situation. But I don't think everyone does that.
So my response to that was like, if there's somebody who claims to only think in ETH, and then when it benefits them to think in ETH, they'll think in ETH, and when it doesn't benefit them, then they'll think in fiat. The only reason that they're thinking in fiat, like what they're thinking in fiat, is how does this benefit me in ETH? Like they're not thinking I'm going to pay $800 for this card. They're thinking in ETH. They just know that whoever they're dealing with is thinking in fiat. But like, there are just too many people on the platform outside of limiteds that will only think. I don't want to say only think, because that's not really what I mean. What they want to do, like their goal, is to accumulate ETH. And they're doing that because they think ETH will be worth more in the future than it is worth now. And so, buying and selling cards while only thinking in ETH gives them an easier way to understand whether they are getting towards their goal of getting more ETH. And like, if that's your goal, the fiat losses don't matter. Like, they literally don't matter, because if you have an ETH gain today and you sell that ETH in 3 years, then maybe it's a fiat gain by then. Like, the idea that like the price they get today is what it's worth forever doesn't work with, that doesn't apply with ETH, which is why people try to accumulate ETH. Like, if you're only thinking in fiat, what you bought for today, like the cash that you get for this card, is what it's worth today and moving forward. But the ETH could be worth more, could be worth a lot less too, as we've seen.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the variables of this game that a lot of people play. And so thinking that like everyone thinks in fiat is wrong. We know that not everyone thinks in ETH. But to say that like you shouldn't think one way or the other is absurd.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, think however you want to think, or whatever. One might interest you more, or one might benefit you more in one way or the other. John had a comment. Do you think Zura thought it in ETH or fiat when he sold his gallery today? I would think, based on some conversations I've had with him, and I think, Laird, you've taken part in some of these discussions as well. He thinks the value of ETH is going lower, is my understanding. I think that he thought in terms of fiat, and he probably converted the ETH into fiat. I don't know this. This is my assumption based on his thoughts that ETH is going lower.
I think he believes ETH is going lower in the short term. I'm not convinced he thinks ETH is not going to be much higher.
That's fair.
In the long term.
That's fair. Yeah. So I should have qualified that.
Yeah. So like, while I think he may believe ETH is going lower, I don't know if he sold all of his ETH and put it in fiat or a stable coin or whatever. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still holding the ETH.
Yeah.
But that's not, I don't know. We didn't get to that part of the conversation. But there's just too much. There are too many absolute opinions, and
you know what, I do think that like eventually they should just like get to one currency and one currency alone. But
they even can't do that.
Why not?
Like, they can't, because if you're going to have people, like, I think you're thinking of one currency meaning like fiat versus crypto. But like, even fiat is multiple currencies, and not like, if you like, so that's why they can't do it. But like, if all of a sudden the pound goes down against the dollar and we're like, oh, let's sell some cards to some.
I think that they still can do. I think that they can still do one currency though. You just select the currency that you want to see something posted in. So like, if I post something at $100, $100 and your currency of origin is euros, you'll just see the euro price for that card.
Don't they do that already?
Yeah, but then you also have the ETH value for that card as well.
But that's just another currency.
I don't know. It's just confusing. I feel like it's just another thing. I don't know.
Yeah, we had a suggestion. It wasn't really a suggestion. It was just telling us to do something, that we should start talking about prices on the show in fiat. Like, we should just forget about ETH. And I'm not going to do that. But
I think the struggle is my brain works in a certain way, and it's a very stubborn brain, and it takes a really long time to retrain it. And for me to talk about like a card's value in fiat now would be really really difficult for me.
I think my problem is that because I'm not constantly putting money on the site, like I haven't put money into Sorare in a while. And so whatever fiat I had when I put it on the site, like that day's value is like it's gone. It doesn't matter what it was worth.
Sure.
And really the only way for me to know how much I have is based on how much ETH I have. Like that's the only constant, which sounds weird because ETH is not constant at all. But I continue to look at prices in ETH and I haven't I haven't seen any argument to convince me why I shouldn't. Like I understand that card prices move. So like a card that I wanted to buy a month ago that was zero point 0.5 ETH is now 0.8. Like I understand that that's different because of ETH's price versus fiat. But I also understand it just means I'm not buying the card now. Like if fiat wise it's the same price, I'm not going to buy it. And that's me. That's not everybody. And some people will be like, well, that's ridiculous. It's the same price as when you wanted to buy it. So why don't you just buy it? And it's like, well, the money that I have on the site is not, I don't have that buying power. And that was kind of my example on Twitter today when I was trying to explain to people like why you can't only think in fiat unless you deposit and withdraw for every transaction. Like as soon as you sell a card and you don't withdraw it, you are now susceptible to what ETH gives you, like the ETH price. And while the fiat value theoretically is the same, your buying power is not because card prices are moving and ETH is the constant in that. And so it reminded me of this conversation that we had on one of our first shows together. And I included that on this thread that I put on Twitter today. But if anybody goes back, just search SorareAndrews currency bundle. Evaldo, who was our guest that day, along with HG, really eloquently explained, and Evaldo would laugh if I called anything he did eloquent, but he accurately explained like where our exposures are, what we have exposure to when we buy Sorare cards, when we buy ETH. But basically it was like the less time, excuse me, the more time that goes between transactions in terms of whether you buy a card or sell a card, and then what you do with your fiat at that point. The longer time that you don't do something, the longer you're exposed to ETH. And so the people are like, well, the fiat value is the same. And it's like, yeah, but now the card is more expensive because like the ETH sellers want more or vice versa. And so I just feel like there are too many people who think that they're like, no, I only think in fiat. This is what I paid. This is what I withdrew. But it's like, but throughout that time, your buying power is very different. And it's different because of the price of ETH, not because of what you, not what you deposited or what you withdrew. And so I just needed to say that because there are too many people who are like, ETH doesn't matter. And it's like, it matters a lot more than you think it does, even if you don't think it matters to you.
You know, two things have come up over the past couple of days with like the huge fluctuations in ETH prices. And I just kind of want to get your take on a couple of these things. Does buying a card, Sorare card, limit your risk to the fluctuations in ETH price? Because I've seen a lot of people say, I'm holding a ETH balance right now, and I don't want it to go to, ETH could go down to triple digits or whatever. And if I buy some cards, it protects me.
I don't feel that way. I understand why people might think that. I think the problem is that if you are holding cards instead of ETH, you are opening yourself up to risks that are outside of the trades between ETH and Fiat.
Illiquid assets. I think we've discussed that with Evaldo, right?
But certainly, yes, we talked about illiquid assets. Honestly, people go back and listen. I'll link it in the description for those of you who have not seen it yet. But when you put your card, if you're holding ETH, you're like susceptible to the movement of ETH versus Fiat. If you put it into a card, you are maybe to a lesser extent not as susceptible to it, particularly if you are just holding the card. But if you're just holding the ETH, it doesn't matter either. Like if you're just literally like, I'm not spending this, then it doesn't matter if it's just in your ETH wallet.
Well, nobody's not spending it. They're just not spending it right now.
Right. So if you make the decision, so I would argue that the risk associated with using that ETH to buy a card are underappreciated. That what happens if you're like, I have this ETH balance and I don't know what's going to happen with ETH, if it's going to rise or fall. I'm worried it's going to fall. So I'm going to buy, I'm trying to think of a player who's not outrageously priced, but I'm trying to think of who I would buy. But anyway, I'm going to buy a Hulk rare card.
Okay.
Feels pretty stable. He's really good. It's an asset that I think I can resell around my price. Like, I don't think the price is going to dip that much. Great. Hulk gets hurt.
Yeah.
How much is my asset worth now?
But if you needed Hulk anyways, then...
What's that?
If you needed Hulk anyways, what's the difference?
Well, right. Now I'm sitting on a worthless something that may not be worth as much as the ETH that I had before, or the Fiat that I had before. And so literally it's just something like that. Or I bought a U23 goalie and now he just got transferred to a second division side in whatever country. It doesn't even matter. It's like, well, that's now worthless. And so it feels like people are like, no, having my ETH sit in cards, like buying cards, is safer because the card market doesn't fluctuate as much as the ETH market does. And that's another thing that Evaldo brought up on this podcast, was buying cards does not necessarily make you more exposed to ETH. It just gets you exposed to the card market. And so if the card market doesn't fluctuate as much as ETH and you're like, that's safer. If you've ever owned a card of a player who got hurt, you'll know that's not, it'll fluctuate pretty quickly. So that's my opinion on cards being safer than ETH.
Okay.
You said you have another thing though.
I've already forgot it, but you mentioned Hulk. I bought Pedro Galice yesterday after he made the first penalty save, and after Peru scored their first goal.
Yeah.
So they were up 1-0 in PKs, and I was like, all right, this is another World Cup goalie. I'm buying him. I ended up getting totally, screwed, whatever. Pull up his chart, though. Did I make a good buy or did I make a bad buy?
Ooh, I like this game.
I think it's bad now.
Bad, really bad, but I'll pretend it wasn't. To be honest, I haven't even looked yet. All right, let's see where. I assume this is not you.
I'm the top. I think that's a mistake or something.
It has to be.
Too low.
Oh wait, is that? I think that was a loan.
I think I'm the top ETH one in that short little bucket there.
There you are.
Yeah.
So 0.625 ETH, but $766.
Three more recently just sold for less.
Yeah.
But a week ago, someone paid over $1,000 for that same card.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to buy Matt Ryan now. That's a good point. Quarterback for Atlanta Falcons.
Not that one. That's Matt with the 2 T's. This is a single T.
Matty Ice.
Yeah. So I think it's fine. I don't know.
Right. Nobody knows is what it comes down to. It's like, Oh, does he play for the Colts now, is Archie? Okay. Get traded, I guess.
Like, I think, is this, like, ETH wise, his price hasn't moved, basically, in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from 0.575 to 0.56. And so I don't think this buy tells us anything about ETH whatsoever. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
He's been terrible, hasn't he?
He's been fine. I mean, he's a
Right.
goalie. He's
a goalie. He's been
MLS
fine.
goalie.
Yeah. So Philly Dilly said it's a good buy. Or if it's a good buy or not, all depends on what rewards you win with him. And somebody brought that up just before. The utility of the cards gives it some hedge value.
I almost feel like you should be able to look at that and just be like, that was good, okay, or bad, and it's really hard to do that. I was thinking about it last night. I was like, all right, well, he didn't make the World Cup now. Now I have this card, but I don't know. I was just like, was that good? Or was it okay? And I think it's just okay. But I don't know. That's a weird one to even like wrap your head around.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. Great buy, Andy.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're about to get lit up by New England, but great buy.
Yeah.
Hopefully. China is saying, I don't think it's a protection thing. I think it's the thought of, I want to buy this guy for 1 ETH, but because of the ETH drop, people will relist him for 1.2 ETH and I can't buy him. Like, that's kind of how I feel. That, like, I've held ETH for too long. And I say that it's like months. It's not like I have somebody who's had ETH for years.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that there are people who only think in fiat and they're like, all right, like if the price is like you seem to have gotten a pretty good deal based on like recent prices. But they're going
too lower now, so yeah.
Like, did he have any auctions recently? So we had one 4 days ago. And then they're all kind of the same. Like, this was a terrible example.
Yeah. I
would think it's Asher, which is a really good point. With Sorare cards thinking in ETH where you're short in ETH, our card values are not going to maintain ETH price if ETH goes up to 10,000 in the future. We have to know that. I agree with that. Completely agree. And my gosh, that's another thing Evaldo said on this previous show. But he was like, somebody said they bought a card for 1 ETH. And he was like, if ETH doubles, would you sell it for 0.5? And they were like, no, because I don't want to take an ETH loss. And he's like, that's really stupid because what if ETH goes to 1 million? Would you then sell it for 0.5 or 0.05? And you're like, of course, because that's a lot of money. And it's like, well, the argument is now gone. Like you can't, of course you would take an ETH loss for that. And obviously that extreme, like people are like, oh, that's just an extreme. But like if ETH went to 1 million, we'd all be like, oh, sweet, great. I'd sell our card. We're selling cards now when ETH is at $1,200 so that we have ETH when it's 1 million. Like it's as simple as that. I don't know. He's, I don't know. But there's no, like, I just think there was too many extremes. So the other thing that I was, that I wanted to touch on because it came up through some of the replies to my tweet. People are like, card prices are down, so like this is when we should go buy. And, or no, sorry, it was like ETH is down, so now we should go buy because like card prices are going down. And it's like, well, ETH prices are going up theoretically. Not everybody. Apparently, Pedro Gaeses are not. But
that's outside forces, like other things happening, like
maybe
him not making the World Cup,
right?
Which it's 3 games of utility that I lose, but
right. In a time when we are expecting like 17 prizes to be available,
right?
So I think there are too many factors that go into what card prices are worth to blame it solely on like, oh, ETH is dropping, so card prices, like ETH prices are going up because the fiat values are staying the same. But like fiat values are going down as well in some cards. Shout out to Chanu, who fiat wise got a steal on his Carlos Heel card.
Pull it up. I want to see it.
So this was like a clear example of somebody, although Chanu's in a bit of an ironic situation here because he is kind of like an ETH guy. Let's see. So Chani got this for 2.69. And last week, maybe the week before, people were asking for like 2.5. It was like the floor was like around 2.2. And I talked to Chani about it. I hope he doesn't mind me saying all of this, but he was like, I'd pay like 2.3 or whatever. And nobody wanted to sell. It was like, oh no, one sold for 2.2. And so now the floor is 2.5. No part of our conversation included fiat values. So he was like, so then I saw he bought this card. And I was like, oh, I guess like the price went down. And it was like, oh no, he paid 2.69. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot more. But then you go to the dollar value and it's a tremendous drop. So whoever he bought the card from could be somebody who's just like, I'm going to take advantage of an ETH drop and get more ETH for my card because I think ETH will be worth more later. And Chani came in with his fiat and was like, great. Like this was 6 days ago, 2.325. And then yesterday, 2.69. We had a 2.9 go an hour ago. There's an auction right now already at 3.3. And you're like, wow, that's really high. But like it was $4,500 6 days ago, 4,100. Now we're at 3,300. And some people were saying it was because Gil is on a terrible run of form because he has 42, 73, and 48 with no decisive. So he's obviously toast. You're finally getting your wish is coming true.
Ah, yes. Soft boy.
If only this upcoming schedule of home against Orlando, home against Minnesota, at Vancouver, and home against Cincinnati would help your cause. My God.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great for me, but someone that has to fade him every week.
So Zarky's also showing off now because the super rare went for like 7 and change last week. Was it even last week? And so like so I said that on Twitter also. I was like, is a 20% drop in Carlos Heel's price? Like what causes that? And it's like, you don't know that there's a 20% drop if you look at ETH.
Right.
Because his price keeps going up. So why would it keep going up in ETH if it's going down? Like if it's going up in ETH because like fiat prices are going down because the guy sucks now. Like is a 20% drop in 6 days warranted for a guy who hasn't played?
Is this too is this too much for like somebody to keep track of that just wants to like play the game and buy some cards and compete and maybe do a little buying and selling? Like all of this that we're talking about right now, is this all too much for just like Joe Casual to come in and play?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Joe Casual is watching us though.
No, I'm not saying watching us. I just mean Joe Casual wanting to play Sorare, and then they find out that there's all these graphs they have to look at to find out if they're, not getting swindled when they buy a card.
So it's funny you bring that point up because I remember when I joined, I wanted nothing to do with crypto.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. I remember going somewhere on Sorare, and they were like, here's how you buy crypto, and here's how you got to do this wallet to here. And they're like, or you could just buy with a credit card. And I was like, I'll just do that. And they do a really good job of hiding ETH if you want it hidden. Like you can think totally in fiat if you want, but it's impossible to understand where prices go without understanding ETH. And even though like I think the baseline price, like the base of values are in fiat. Like I will admit that completely. Like I think prices move certainly with like lower scarcity cards, meaning limiteds and rares. I think those move because of fiat. But I also think just because of that, ignoring ETH is completely wrong, because whether you think in fiat or not, every transaction you do on the platform is in ETH. Like if you use a credit card to buy ETH, excuse me, if you use credit card to buy a card, like you're buying ETH to then use to buy a card. And you're just like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I know the dollars that are in Sorare and the dollars that are coming out, or euros or pound, whatever. But like your buying power is affected by ETH, also because there are so many people on the platform that only deal in ETH. And so somebody like commented to me the other day, and they were like, "You would never sell a card just because, like, without checking the fiat value." Like, I don't think I've ever looked. Like, I just look to see where other people are selling their cards in ETH, and I'll price my card accordingly. But I just I think you could do either way. But to say that like one, everybody does one, or that you should only think of one is wrong. That's all.
Here's my response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Philly kind of mentioned also if you're coming in new, most likely are going limiteds. The US dollar difference is less important because you're probably primarily thinking only in terms of fiat would be my guess is where you're going with that. I think that's probably true. Like they're newer players probably care less, depending on where they're coming from, how they found the game and all that. They probably care less about ETH and they just, look at their fiat balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wonder how much they think that fiat is the only thing that moves card prices. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it still.
So, to bring us back on topic, Sorare isn't here to make us money. Did we talk enough about that?
No, they need to make ETH go up.
Yeah. My camera's all fuzzy for some reason.
Somehow. Yeah, I think let's see. I like this point by Mike McGovern. Generally, I think people who value an ETH are early adopters that have a lot of built-in gains. People who may not have been as early are more likely to think in fiat. I think that's totally right. And yeah, I think that's right. What I do think is kind of fun, NG brought this up, big question of the day for me, why am I selling my gallery? I'm not selling my gallery. But our good friend Sean Newsham has said, like, if ETH gets to a certain point, like he's going to sell his gallery because he's just like, oh, I can get so much ETH for mine. And
so he is such a big believer in ETH, that he wants that much ETH.
I think so.
When there's that much blood in the streets, I wonder if he'll still be that much of a believer in ETH.
I don't think we're close to the price where he would do it, but he has always said that, like, if ETH gets to a certain point, like, it just makes sense to sell everything, and you can buy back if ETH takes off, or you just walk away, whatever it is. But he's always been very clear that, like, his goal is ETH accumulation. And if your cards are worth twice as much ETH today as they were 6 months ago, and they're the same cards, maybe you sell. I'm going down the ship, but like,
you're playing the violin.
Yeah. What is this? I think anyone with top cards that says ETH is more important will never sell me their top card who is worth 5 ETH for 5 ETH. Okay. Oh, that's an interesting point. Okay. So the point is, I think, let me reread this one from Chani because I actually took out the most important part.
Yeah.
It says, I think anyone with top cards that says ETH is more important will never sell me their top card who was worth 5 ETH, the equivalent to $10,000, for 5 ETH if that was the equivalent to 2,000. I think the difference in that situation, Chani, is that if somebody thought a card was worth 5 ETH when ETH was 10,000, then they think that it's worth 25,000 or excuse me, 25 ETH when ETH is 2,000.
Yeah.
That math isn't right either, but that's the point.
Something like that. I get your point.
Yeah. So like I think it is kind of funny. Like if a card, like if I was willing to sell a card last week for 2 ETH, and today the floor is like 2.5, I'm not willing to sell it for 2 this week, even though it was only 2. Like I was willing to sell it for 2 last week. But I have that now with like, now that I finally also bring up Carlos Heel. Like when Carlos Heel got to like 2.2, I was like, I don't know if I should keep this card. Like given my gallery, I might be able to use that ETH better somewhere else. And now the floor is 3. And I'm like, if I was thinking this at 2.5, 2.2, 2.3, like I should really be thinking it at 3. The only reason I'm not is that it feels like everything else is priced so absurdly high that like what I'm actually getting for that 3 ETH is less than what I would have gotten 2 weeks ago. But I'm not selling my gallery, but there are certain cards that I have that strictly because of the current ETH price now, I'm like, maybe I should sell these cards.
Like Joao Felix.
I have him available. He's on the market. I put that card on the market yesterday.
What's
7
the 7th?
7th. like if something happens to ETH, well, if something happens to ETH and Joao Felix is worth 7 ETH, then we're much sadder than we are right now, just joking about it. But I would be willing to sell Joao Felix rare card for 7 ETH, even if, and I would feel okay with it, even if like a week later it was worth 9 ETH. So if anyone wants to buy now, knowing that it's going to be 9 ETH one day, or not, just let me know. This isn't.
Yeah. I'm looking at what Johnny said. Generally, though, I think ETH being low allows more casuals to hop in as it's less scary now when looking at its price. I don't think this will ever really be a game for casuals, but maybe like lower budget players, if that's where you're going with that. Like lower budget players, yeah, probably that probably makes sense. But I think it's hard to be like casual and play Sorare.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of work. Like it's fun, but it's a lot of work for people.
Right.
So this is what I'm struggling with, because Chani says, I think ETH being low allows more casuals to hop in as it's less scary now when looking at the price. Quinny agrees, but like, aren't we saying that fiat prices are kind of staying the same?
I think people feel like they'll be able to get more ETH, and when you can get 0.75 ETH instead of 0.00 or 0.01 or 0.03 ETH or whatever, it just feels better. It feels like you're coming in with more.
But ETH doesn't matter. I only think in fiat, so why does it matter?
Because you have to, I mean, unless you're buying with your credit card, you essentially have to buy ETH at some point.
Yeah, I just think that one point is what throws it off a little for me, in that, because I agree, like prices look better, but I think
that's the problem, is you have to buy ETH at some point.
Like you have to look at ETH to know that you're getting more.
Yeah.
And so to say like, oh, it doesn't matter, ETH doesn't matter, like it has to matter, because now you're thinking, oh, I'm getting more for my money, even though like the cards themselves theoretically are the same price. Or, I mean, they're obviously not the exact same price, but so Johnny, I think so like Quinny says, for the uninitiated, ETH being cheaper is better optics when you're sizing up giving it a go. But like, if you have your budget that you're willing to spend in fiat, ETH theoretically shouldn't matter for those people. It does, for all the reasons we said, but I'm not sure people who are new think of that. Yeah, I don't know. But an ETH drop. So what do you think about the people who post cards for sale and those cards get sold for more ETH than they let me rephrase this. People were arguing to me that the reason why ETH prices on cards is going up is because people aren't readjusting. So like when ETH goes down against fiat, like we should be asking for more ETH for our cards because fiat wise.
I feel like there's a gap where there's opportunities.
I agree with you. But do you
like
think
the reaction period is slow right now?
Well, I mean, the fact that you can post cards for 48 hours and we know ETH can move
Change a lot in
up
48
or down
hours.
quite a lot in 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
But so like the Carlos Heel example was one of those where then people were like, oh, well, they didn't adjust. And it's like, but Carlos Heel right now is the last sale of Carlos Heel is higher than it's ever been. So like obviously they adjusted at some point. And they're like, oh, well, that card sold for 2.69, but really it should have been 3. And it's like, well, 3 is the floor now and nobody's buying that. So
Yeah.
like, which one is it?
I want to talk about the question Dave just brought up. If Sorare just removed ETH and stuck everything on the platform into fiat currency, do you think the product would suffer or thrive, make it easier for new users, but hurts people into crypto and ETH? So I think, at least my perspective, someone that's an Ethereum enthusiast, I don't care what the currency on the platform is. I care that the cards lie on the blockchain. They are on the Ethereum blockchain. They're secured by the Ethereum blockchain. I don't really care what the currency on the platform is. If they went to a stable coin and everything was, USDC or UST or whatever, I'd be totally fine with that. I really don't care what the currency is. How do you feel?
I think that we are still too far away for blockchain and crypto to be acceptable to, well, let me start that over. I think that there are too many people on the platform right now who care about crypto. Like not the Ethereum block cards are on the blockchain, but actually being able to use this to accumulate cryptocurrency.
But they can still do that if it's a stable coin. It's the same. It's the same. You take the stable coin off platform, go to Uniswap, and switch it over to ETH.
But I don't have to do that now.
I mean,
it's the easiest way to do it now is to just do it here. That I can.
Is that their responsibility to? Is that like part of the product? Is so that you can accumulate ETH?
So I think as of today, they need to have people who are into crypto in the community. Like I think they need that because NFTs are not mainstream.
But people that are into crypto know that they can just export to their wallet and swap real quick. Like those are the people that can go do that. The people that can't go do that are the people that would just keep it in a fiat balance and would want it as a fiat balance. I would think would want it as a fiat balance.
I like the idea of accumulating ETH and thinking that ETH will rise. And I'm not somebody who would take it off and take a stable coin off and convert it to ETH every single time I make a transaction.
Yeah,
I won't.
I think one thing's for sure, and I know people have asked for this, is to just be able to have like 2 wallets on the site and have like a stablecoin wallet and an ETH wallet. They're not a crypto exchange, and they're not going to get into the regulations of being a crypto exchange. So I think that like the hopes and prayers that might happen someday, I don't see it.
Yeah, that's fair. I like this point by Quinny. He said most people won't bother to get 0.05 or whatever Bitcoin, but a lot of those same people would be happy to put £1,000 to get 50,000 Doge coins.
I work with some of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. So David Taylor says a few of my mates have left because they're scared of crypto but want to play Sorare as they love fantasy football. This crash isn't helping as people just go look at that drop. But apparently you can always think in fiat. So like, what does the crypto part scare them about? That like if they just look at,
because they have to maintain if they're going to have a balance, it's going to be an ETH.
But theoretically, the card prices will adjust. That's what I was told. Card prices adjust to ETH, so it shouldn't matter. Like the fiat values will.
Who told you that?
The internet. Everybody on
Oh
Twitter.
boy. Oh boy.
I don't know. I don't know what the. I mean, there's not like a.
I would also say that like crypto winter is what we're entering right now, or what it feels like, a bear market. There'll be a lot of negative publicity around crypto. A lot of people that lost a lot of money. Obviously, like if that's someone out there, feel awful, and wish you the best. But a lot of negative sentiment will come to crypto projects, and the more crypto, I don't know, like front-facing things like a ETH balance and cards being priced in ETH might, be negative. And kind of to Dave's point, like that exposure might not be what people want.
That's fair. That's fair. I think the other. I'm not. That's just going to get into like a crypto conversation. I don't really feel like having that conversation. I'm not smart enough to have it. But this one looks bad too, doesn't it?
What is that?
Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think the entire economy stuff right now, all the markets, every market is tough.
Yeah, I'm turning into like a crypto guy now, trying to stick up for Ethereum.
Yeah, you have like the NASDAQ chart pulled up with Ethereum right next to it.
Yeah, right next to it.
See? Yeah.
With the Carlos Hill chart. You're like, oh, that's where. See, we told you it was safe. Yeah, Chani said at least Sorare provides entertainment. That's true. There we go.
What will be your Sorare plan if ETH goes down to $500? Personally, I don't think my Sorare plan changes at all.
That's when Sean sells his whole gallery. I think $500 was his number.
I mean, that's what they say to do, right? Buy when there's blood on the streets. Buy when people are fearful. But I'll believe it when I see it.
Buy more. Yeah, I do wonder at what point we see. I mean, Zora just did it, but I wonder if we see other big galleries start selling out, just because ETH is so low.
Yeah. Jimmer's made this point multiple times, and the more big galleries that sell out and the liquidity of the system gobbles them up, the more healthy the product is.
Just because those cards are distributed out for.
Not even that. It's just we know that the market can sustain it.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, Zora was at one point, top 5, top 3 galleries on the platform, and he sold all of his cards, and they got liquidated, and a lot of them got sold into the market, and a lot of them got bought by a single buyer. And I haven't noticed any negative market effects from it, so it gives me hope.
Just the opposite. It makes one of our charts look so much more fun.
It does. Yeah, that chart is very fun, and people may have thought that was just like the crypto effect, and part of it probably is the crypto effect, but a good chunk of that is Zora, I imagine.
I don't know if it's that many, but 1,200, and I mean, I think this has more to do with the ETH drop than anything else.
Sure.
But yeah, 1,200 ETH in a single day. Where were the auctions? 400.
It'll be interesting to see where the offer volume is today.
Oh, without Zora?
Yeah.
Chinese Zora sold yesterday. You can just go to his page and see everything that is gone. Like, go to the transactions and you'll see.
I think if you go to what is it? Completed offers, and then just search by manager, do Zora _.
You don't even have to do that. Come on now. No. Wonder, is he gone now? Oh no, here we go.
So you guys are adding new stuff all the time that I'm not even noticing, I guess.
I wonder if he got rid of his. There we go. Just go to transactions.
Ah,
It'll take a while because it was a ton of cards.
there were a lot of transactions.
It was just a lot of cards. There we go. But yeah, you can see this was all yesterday.
So is it Sorare that batches them like that, or is that more?
This is how they like Zora and
batched them.
Melama did it together.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just so many cards.
It's crazy.
He's also been selling cards for a while though.
Yeah.
But yeah. But we'll see.
He'll be back. Just watch. He'll be
Just
back.
watch. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll
He's
see.
gonna take however long off, and then he'll be like, "I got to buy another Lethal stack," and I don't know what else he likes, but you know,
He's going to be the one who buys my Joao Felix rare for 7 ETH. ETH will be 14 cents then, but
sure.
I'll have my 7 ETH then. All right. I think we've gone long enough by answering no questions and whether Sorare is here to make us money or not. Some people are making money. Not everybody. That's all right. So thank you to everybody who has joined us in the chat. Like I said, I'm going to add the currency bundle show that we did previously that I kept referring to in the description of this. So if you haven't checked that out, feel free to just click over now and watch that because it's a very, very good listen if I don't say so myself. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that's always appreciated. If you are watching, if you're listening to the audio version, if you could please rate and review it wherever you listen. I'll be back on Friday with Sean for the strategy show. And then Andy and I will be back next week with hopefully a more exciting topic that makes everyone happier.
Taxes.
Taxes it is. We'll see you next week, everyone.